I'm recording the painting part, and when I get into the explanation part of this. So I went through the handout, and I'm going to see is what happened to. I've got to check something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. Because I know she was on earlier. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, I don't know what else I can do. It seems like all you guys didn't have an issue with getting on, so there's two people who are having an issue, so I don't have a clue. I mean, there's only so much I can do. Sorry. I don't know what else to do. Anyway, they have the same information as you do. I'm going to go share my screen again and go over and show you some stuff. And I'm going to get rid of my camera because then I solved the jerky, the lag in the streaming thing. It's by getting rid of my camera. So I'm getting rid of my camera. And I'm going over to the this camera. And I've made it also, I've gone out on it a little bit. I've zoomed out a little bit. I'm going to minimize you guys because um, a lot of people wanted to see how I use the water. So here's stuff, and I'm going to turn this so I can see you guys a little bit better. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm using a sheet of 9 by 12 paper, and you don't have to do these very big. It's just that I want you to have this in your painting quiver or box or whatever you want to call it, your experience, that have to do these side by side, because then you could be better suited to be master of the universe and say, I really like this photo, but I think it would be a better painting if I painted it with atmosphere, as opposed to just copying the painting. So that's one. Here's this guy. These are all going to be 9 by 12ers. This is, again, this is not rocket science. It's just washing out the edge. This is a little bit more involved, but not really. This is the farm scene, and it's pretty atmospheric. And somebody asked me about this. Oh, how's come the paper looks warmer than that white paint? When you mix a gouache, I'm going to use two different kinds. I'm going to use gesso, but I'm going to use just white paint. When you mix your watercolors with that, it's going to be cooler. It's going to automatically go cooler. And if you, I'm sure I've sent you guys some links with James Gurney explaining that. I can mix up a light, mid-tone, and dark value scale just using a transparent watercolor. And then I can make the same value scale using white and black gouache. And the gouache side is going to be cooler. And so that's what they asked me. So if you're really fussy about it, just add a little raw sienna or something to it to warm it up. Here you can see that this is a lot of wet and wet. And you paint this as it dries so you can get these harder edges, but it's still pretty easy to lift out. And the same with this one. That's again Yellowstone. There are a bunch of photographers. A photographer, a friend of mine, supplied those photos. So anyway, those are those guys. And here's what we're going to be kind of doing at the end of this. This was a painting I did a long time ago as just a quick little demo. And it didn't look nearly this atmospheric, but it was supposed to. And it was a reduction. It was just a cool and a warm color. It was just a reduction in values, but it wasn't enough to make it look atmospheric. So I said, well, what if I use gesso? And I'm going to show you a little snippet of John Lovett using gesso to bring the focus in. This is out of focus. I'm bringing the focus in by using atmosphere. This is gesso through here, and I brushed it out while it was wet with a dry Hake brush. A lot of you have seen blending brushes before with watercolor. I don't do it a lot, but a lot of people are very good at it, very effective. This was a white gouache. This was this blue over here to push back that tree, that top was gesso with watercolor added. So I made it blue gesso. And then I added this guy just so you could see the difference in the value. This is another one that I did, and these paintings are just demo paintings, so they're not very good, but I wanted to show somebody how to do that, sparkle stroke, where you're just hitting the tops, the tops of the bumps on this cold press paper. I thought this would look more interesting if I pushed that back and put some atmosphere there. So I used white gouache and I brushed it out. I sprayed it first so it was a little wet. And I also turned it upside down and I did the same thing here. And it's a more interesting painting. Here's a painting, if you guys remember, we're painting graphic shapes. I'll put all this stuff in a reference folder too. This was just a normal and painting those rocks back there. So I took one of these because I had several of them, and I added gesso, and then I added gouache, and so I made it much more atmospheric. And I still kept. I had the luxury of just keeping this. The highlight, keeping this the center of interest. And it's a much more mysterious kind of painting. So we're going to be doing that with another of my old paintings, or my demo paintings. And by the way, this is from actually a workshop I had a long time ago. But this was kind of interesting because when you start doing these atmospheric paintings, this doesn't have to be wet and wet. Nita Engel always said it's not soft, it's just lighter. She didn't like all the wet and wet stuff. Anyway, so that's just lighter. It's soft through here. And see this? I loved what happened here because when I put that this painted itself, and for for fog or whatever, it really worked. And that's just a bloom. Oh no, I hate blooms. No, I love blooms because I could never have painted that, and that happened by itself. And of course, this is a lot darker, leading you in to that down that road. Anyway, and you don't have to do it. It's just warm and cool. So you can learn how to do all that stuff. Anyway, I found that when I was cleaning up. So if you guys are ready, then we can start. So I'm going to put you back on. I'm going to put you back on stop share for a second. Does anybody have any questions? Steffi, you got in. Good. And I don't know what happened to, let me check one more time. Whoops, sorry. One more time. Okay. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes. You're muted.
I pre
You're muted.
okay. Now I'm okay. I
Okay.
presume you want us to tape the edges of the paper?
That's the way I paint. You don't
Okay.
have to, but that's the way I paint because I
Okay.
want that. I want it to look good when I take the tape off.
And we're going to be painting 9 by 12, so we should leave paint the not try to make 2 on a page.
Well, you can do 2 on a page. That's certainly fine. It's the process. It's not the size. I just
Okay.
I don't want to spend a lot of time doing a larger painting because I want you to make sure that you get this.
Sure.
And I don't want to spend the time just physically covering up a large area. So,
Okay.
okay, let me share my screen again and go back to here.
So make about 3 or 4 pages with taped edges.
It's whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
I'm just going to, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to paint fairly fast as usual because I want to make sure that we try a bunch of stuff. I do not like going to workshops or putting on workshops where you end up with one painting. Unless that painting involves a lot of different components that you can learn from. I often try to do that. Nita Engel is the one that taught me how to paint. And I said, boy, if I could just do a half a dozen of her techniques in one painting, that would be cool. That would be cool. But I don't know how that happens. Anyway, I think you guys can see everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. So I have this as my reference. And so the first thing I want to do is very important on this image is where's the peak of this roof? Because that's going to determine a lot. So I'm going to look at my width on there, and it's about there. It's not in the middle. It's just a little bit over there. And this on the side, that is almost to the middle. So I'm going to say almost to the middle there. And I'm going to say, there's my middle. And I'm going to come over about to there. And I'm going to go down to there and across to there. And that's going to be the peak of my roof. So I feel comfortable making that peak of my roof. And then I can extend my barn out so it kind of looks sort of. And this, again, it's not, I don't want you to spend a lot of time angsting over this. So there's the corner of that. Here's the side of that. And I want to see how much I am. I'm going to come over just a little bit more. And so there's my barn, and I've got this sweep. I've got this C curve right here. So I just want to bring that down. There's my C curve. And that looks about right in the scheme of things. And now I can kind of just follow this. I can fake the rest of it. I'm good at faking. So there's another little structure, and it doesn't have to be exact, and some stuff happening here. And this guy, that house way in the background, I'm just going to indicate I've got a tree of some kind of tree back here. There's my tree. I've got this silo back here. And I do not want the silo to line up. In fact, I'm going to move it over. I'm going to move it. You can do this. See, this pencil erases pretty easily. So I'm going to move it over there just a tad. I don't want this to be a tangent with the side of that silo. I want the silo behind it. So I've got another tree. And hey, look, that fast. We've got a little drawing here. That's kind of cool. And so I'm doing that. And then I have this other line coming in here that's kind of like that for my foreground, and a plant sticking up just to remind me. And then I've got this weedy patch just to remind me, and some kind of furrows of ground. And this big C curve right here, I'm making it a big C curve, just like that. I know that I can go back and I can add, what's the shape of this stuff, but I don't have to have that. I want the big shape first. So anyway, I think we're, at least me, I think I'm kind of sort of have enough to start painting. And I'm going to do this fairly quickly, and I will give you guys plenty of time, especially at the start, but I'm only using one color. So can everybody see how I did that? I started right here. So that was very important to me that I start there, because I want the peak of this roof to be in the right place. And then I have to find the bottom of it. Is this curve in the right place? Does it kind of exit there? And because it start here? Yeah. So those two keys for my painting. And then I have to figure out how far does this go over? Top or bottom? And there we go. And a tree, and a tree, and a whatever. I could actually make that tree over here according to the reference. Doesn't really make any difference. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. I'm going to clean my palette. If anybody has any questions, just please unmute themselves.
Are you using the Color Erase pencil?
Yes.
I got that tip from your other workshop, and it works pretty
and you
good.
saw how easy it was to erase that.
Some of the other people might not have heard that. You might want to mention it again.
It's I do not like graphite, because once you put down color on top of pencil, it sets it into the paper. This is a Prismacolor pencil, but it's different. It's the one with the eraser on it. It's called Col Erase, COL-ERASE. And what it does do, it erases. It will erase after I do a painting on this with watercolor. I don't know how it does it. I think it's got some pastel in it or something. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it works. That's all I care about. It works. Yay. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up with a big brush. I'm going to use Mr. Gravity. Got to have Mr. Gravity with watercolor. That's what makes it work. So now my pad is raised. I am going to just mix up some Payne's Gray puddle down here. And I'm going to wet the paper, but I'm going to wet it with a tint. And remember that this will dry back. Remember what I talked about in the atmosphere is the reduction in the value. So I'm going from a 2 or a 3 to a 7. And I want a big enough puddle on here that I don't run out. And this is going to look dark, but it's going to end up looking light. That's going to be my light part of my painting. That's going to be the snow. There we go. So that's the first thing that I want to do. Boy, that really looks dark on the monitor. Wow.
Joe, did you wet the paper first?
No, I'm wetting the paper with, instead of using clear water, I'm using a tint.
Okay.
I'm letting mine dry naturally, but in some cases, I'm sorry I'm sorry I'm blocking your view, but it's pretty simple actually. Uh, I'm still having an issue with trying to get the one person in. Don't know why. She said that it's waiting for me to invite them. Okay, I think this is fairly dry enough for me to play with. It's not, I think it's going to be okay. So I'm going to take some more of my Payne's Gray or whatever you chose to use. You could use neutral tint. You could just use any color that will make a dark color. Now I've already got a value on here. So I really don't need to make it what I think is going to be another value as on white paper. Here's the difference. Here's white paper and here's my value. So now I'm going to start painting this mid-tone in here, and I'm going to leave this part of it, this wedge right here, the paper color right now, and I'm going to leave the sky alone too. So I'm going to leave this part and that sky, and I'm just going to start putting in these trees in the background. And I'm just using another tint right over the top of this. And I'm doing it pretty scrubby, loosely. And it's going to dry back. I guarantee that. So I want to start, I'm I want to start blocking in some of my shapes. So I'm going to block in that part. I'm going to go right along the top of that barn. And I'm going to come down about just that far, just enough to make that edge. So there, the barn is starting to reveal itself, huh? And then I've got a tree down here in this shadow. And I'm going to just go over to there. In fact, I can go over all the way. It's not going to make any difference because all the rest of this is going to be darker. In fact, to get my legs, I'm going to use this, I'm going to call it a number 4 or 5 on my value scale. Probably a 4 by the time it dries. And I'm going to start blocking in my shapes. And I just want to make sure that I leave these roof shapes because that's going to suggest architecture. And just there, I can tell it's a barn. Yay! How about that? Kind of cool. And I want to get a less over here and make a few little shapes. I'm going to make this into a roof. I'm just using this flat brush and making one stroke just like that. Kind of cool. So I'm getting this little thing set up. Capture that little curve. So I just blocked in this shape. And I'm going to use that same value, down here. So I'm just that little distraction, those little looks like a field, looks like a furrowed field or something. I just want to reinforce that that's going to be my light strip along there. Just again, I'm trying to be really simple. And yes, now I can, I'm taking my brush. I clean my brush. I'm taking my fingers and I'm squeezing out some water. And I'm just going to wash out that edge right there. I just want you to see start doing that because that's pretty easy to do. See how that it all of a sudden became atmospheric. I can kind of do the same thing down here. And one thing I'm going to do with this one, because I'm going to show you that gouache technique later, is I squeezed out my brush again, and I'm just going to go along this edge. I'm just going to go along this edge. See how easy that was to soften that edge to a lost edge. And the same here. You don't want to go too many times, but now that's softer. And I'm going to do the same thing when I do the next layer, which is going to be darker yet. Already it looks kind of foggy. I'm only going to do one more one more layer, and then we're done putzing with this. And I can also use a paper towel. I can also use a Kleenex to paint with instead of the brush. I don't want to be too crazy here because I'm starting to lift that first initial paint that we put down. I'm just gently going over the top of that with this Kleenex, and I could just blur out a little bit of those trees. while it's still damp, just for a little mystery. It gives a nice little texture, huh? Oh, look at that. That's kind of cool. Wow. Pretty cool. I started out with this big brush to coat the whole thing, to tint the whole thing. Now I'm using I used a 1-inch brush for most of this. And now I'm going to use a 3/4. So, because I'm going to start painting a little bit more defined objects. And I'm going to take that, that value that I had before, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit more. And I'm going to make my dark. This is going to be my dark. This is my light. This is my mid-tone. And this is my dark, just to keep it simple. I think you can do quite a bit with just those 3. I'm going to just see how dark this is. I just want to put a little bit right there. And I'm going to make it darker. And I see I'm blotting my brush on the towel. I want less water on there. And so here's maybe a tree that's and the top of this maybe. And now I'm going to just go over this. And remember, I've already painted this. I'm going to leave a little window. Going to come down here. I'm going to make the side of this darker. And so that's going to leave that corner, and I'm going to have to lift this because I went over the edge. But there you go. Easy peasy. And I'm going to put some something dark happening down in here just for variety. There's a dark window. I'm going to make part of this silo just go right into that dark. And so now we're adding a dimension. We're making it more believable. That's the advantage for me of using this flat brush, is that I can do these architectural kinds of things fairly easily. And for these purposes, I'm just going to use the corner, the very corner of this brush for these little trees going off into the distance. And then I can do a little bit more dark up here. And I can put this weed in. I'm using, again, I'm just kind of scribbling with this brush and using the dry brush part of it. And put in a little fence line. And I can even go back while it's still wet and do a little, well, it's not so wet anymore. I'm just going to leave it alone. Oh, well. I'm going to just, ooh, way too dark. So what am I going to do about that? I'm just going to blot it. Whoops. I blotted it with my dirty. I think I'm just about there for the feeling that I want. It's a very, very limited palette to one color, of course, but it's also very limited in its values, and that's that is a big deal to try to make these things look believable. So that is atmosphere just with value and reduction in color. And of course, all of these things that we're doing today can be done in combination. Excuse me for just a second. Oh, good. Yay, you got in. So we'll catch you up. Anyway, so there's one way to do this. And so here's my white paper, which you can see. So there's my value. That's about a number 2. And that's my light. And this is my dark. And I would say that's maybe a 7, maybe a 6. I don't know. Anyway, and I also like this texture here. By the way, I'm working on Fabriano. Instead of the Strathmore, it's a little softer paper. It's got a different, it's kind of different. It's actually pretty good for doing these atmospheric kinds of things. So does anybody have any questions?
Did you create the fog only up in the trees, or what happened in the white part that's between the rocks and the house? Is there something there that you did?
Well, I think you saw me do the, if you're talking about this part right here.
Yeah. What did you do there?
Well, that's where I just took a damp brush and I softened the edge. That's what we're going to be doing in all this other stuff. So I'll
Okay.
go back and I'm going to take a damp brush, but I'm going to have some tone in it. It's not going to be just clear water. I'm going to take this tone that I have in here. And so I've already got my my tone, my value. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, let me tape this off again real quick. And I will soften it even more because I don't want to, I want a tone there because I don't want it to lift back to white paper. I want it to lift back to that tone that I have. So I don't want it to look, I want it to look natural. So I'm just going to take, and I have this tone on my brush and I'm using it wet. And I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to go back and forth, but not too much. You see how that, and I'm going to wash this part out. I'm just going to touch my brush and wash that out. You see how that softened out that whole thing?
Uh-huh.
So that's one way to do this. In fact, I like that. That's much more atmospheric, don't you think?
Yeah.
And it's going to lead right into what we're going to do next. So this is going to be drawing wise. This is going to be the most complicated one we're going to do because you can fake all the organic stuff. And is anybody familiar with Chien Chung Wei?
Yes.
He's one of my favorite painters. There's not a lot of on him, but he did this. He did these series of videos that are less than 30 seconds. And people always ask me, how do I start? And I like progs. I like progressives. I like shooting things. And I didn't do it with this, but I have the recording. I put down the first layer, and then I put down another layer, and then I put down another layer. And that's how he does these videos. And it looks like magic. And I'm going to show some of those later on. And I will send you the links for those later on. It's fantastic. I haven't seen anybody else quite do that the same way. And I wouldn't think it would work. Hey, I've got 17 seconds. It's for us ADD people who can't focus for very long, or at least me. So I'll give you guys what, 7? I'll go to a quarter after so you can kind of finish this up. You can finish it later, but this is a good kind of warm up. So I'm using I'm using close values. I'm still using my same technique, side of the brush to get this texture. I'm using a damp brush to wash out the edges. And other than that, I'm just painting, and I'm painting like I normally do. I'm using found edges, hard edges, and lost edges. I'm going to dry this real quick.
Can you zoom in on that at some point so we can see it closer up?
How's that?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. Here's what I'll do. I'm done with this anyway. Let me dry it real quick. It's only going to take a minute. The reason I wanted to do that is because I want to eliminate some of the pencil line. And then you can see how the Cull erase works if you're not familiar with that. And that'll let me zoom in tighter too. But, you know, I didn't put any detail in here. The watercolor did it. It painted itself. My skill was, if there is any, was knowing when to do it. How wet was the paper? See, look at that. It erased all that pencil. Pretty cool. And you can't do this. I'm not taking a chance here because this is still damp-ish. But I just wanted you to see. You can see the values a little bit better. And I'll come in closer. How's that? Is that better?
That's better, yeah. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Oops. What happened? The next one we're going to do is this guy. And although it might look more complicated, it's really simpler. Because we're going to simplify it. So what did I learn by doing this? I learned some drawing skills. How to figure out how to draw this so it looks like it's placed correctly within my boundaries. And I think it's pretty close. I mean, of course, I changed some stuff, of course. And also that when you paint wet and wet, that you do not have to paint with just clear water. If I were painting a sunset sky or a warm sky, a la Ron Ranson, I could wet the whole piece of paper that I'm using with a tint of raw sienna, for example, and then go back into it. So now my paper is tinted that warm, glowy color, which makes a big difference. That means you don't have to go back, and it has a difference for the overall look when you get done. For example, anyway, I also learned about timing. Every time I paint something, I learn about timing. What's the air like? Is it humid out today? Is it raining? Is it dry? SoCal is always that way, so going to go through another drought, I'm afraid. And I learned, of course, about reduced values to obtain an effect. And in this case, not color, but it's about value. It's not about the color, it's about the value of that color. So Stan Miller, check him out. He's pretty good. I'm going to tape off another piece of paper. I'm going to do it. You don't have to do these. You can do these 2 up. You can do them however you like to paint. I'm just doing it this way because I think it frames in the camera better. And you can see some of the stuff that's happening a little better. If I paint it too small, then some of that goes away. By the way, I think I told some of you already that the pads that I am using, they're not blocks, they're pads. One spiral bound, this one. Another is a pad. They are, Fabriano is having a big deal right now. These are Fabriano, which is my favorite paper. And this 9x12 pad, 140-pound cold press, 30 sheets was $9.60. Pretty good, especially for trying out all this stuff. And the reason I sent you the cluster link is at the end, we'll of course have a show and tell. You can just hold it up and I'll put you on speaker view. And then of course, if you want to use cluster, you can use cluster. You've all been sent the invitation. Mimi, Miriam, yay. Don't worry, you didn't miss that much at the beginning. You know, I like to BS, all that stuff. So you'll catch up with the recording. So is everybody ready to do another one? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you can't see me because I turned my camera off. So anyway, let's do, I'm going to do this guy right here. I'm going to do this one. I'll see if I can make that as big as I can, but it is in your reference, and this is a very simple 1-2 draw. Okay.
We
I'm
can't see which one you're doing.
I know I haven't shared my screen.
Okay.
There we go. Now I'm going to share my screen and get rid of you guys again. So I'm doing this one. This is it looks very complicated, but it really isn't. And again, I'm going to try to show all my, how I do it. If that's important to some of you, the watching the whole process, dipping the brush, drying the brush, how the paint's mixed, all that other stuff. When I go to hello? Somebody's phone went off. Anyway, I'm going to start doing this stuff, and I just taped off another sheet of paper. So I'm going to switch pads and make sure that it's still recording. Cool. And put this guy away. Cool. So now I'm back to this. And I'll just leave this big until I start to paint, but I've got this reference. So how am I going to do this? So I see this guy, here's my paper, here's my height, here's my width. So I'm going to put some check marks. I'm going to say, okay, that goes over to about the middle actually. And I'm going to put a check mark here because that's a that. And that's a that. And that's not saying that I have to stay with those, but I can if I want to. So I'm going to say that, okay, I have this, and I'm just going to draw a C curve. I don't have to start drawing all those bumps. I just want to draw a curve to get my legs. Okay, I see a curve there. I see this curve coming down a little past middle, and it's exiting about up there. And then I see there's actually a hill behind here. So I'm going to bring that down. And I want to make sure that that angle is different than that angle. And there's something else I'm going to show you. that I'm going to do the bottom part. I'm just doing a diagonal, and I'm going to do another diagonal. And I want to make sure that that angle is different than that angle. This goes off the page different than that goes off the page. This angle, and this angle right here are all slightly different. And look, all these angles, all these diagonals going together make a V. I want to make sure that that V is not in the middle, that V is not in the middle, and that V is not quite in the middle, but it's okay. It's not lined up. It's not a tangent to these other guys. This sounds silly, but it'll make your painting better. When you get all done and you say, oh God, I wish I would have moved that over a half an inch or something. Anyway, I'm going to put a couple of things here to remind me those are trees. And I'm going to put some trees here to remind me. And there's a little bit of that happening back there. And this actually goes down a little past this hill behind that's in front. So there, I have my fabulous drawing. Fabulous. Oh my God. I'm going to just use my same water bucket. After the next painting, I'm going to go get some clean water, which you should all do. There we go. And I think you can see a little bit of that. Of the water, maybe you can. I'll see. There we go. There we go. I think you can see a bunch. You can see it all. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the sky. I'm not going to wet, I'm just going to wet this shape up here. I'm not going to be that careful about it. I'm going to use some of my cobalt with a little bit of cerulean in it. So I'm going to mix some cobalt and some cerulean and try to get kind of a little puddle here. Should have energized my paints. I always say that. I'm just going to just do that. I'm just painting a sky, but I'm painting I'm painting some shapes in there. See how that's painting itself? Love it. Love it. I'm going to paint a little bit of a darker part right through there, just to break it up. Make sure that has some and how many times have I touched the paper? Not very much. And while this is still wet down here, I'm just going to go like that. And I am going to have that glow down here. I don't care about any of this stuff that happens, but I do want to have that kind of glow. Wash that out a little bit. In fact, I'm going to bring that on down. I'll leave this alone over here. So I've got a sky, kind of cool. I've got this little warmth that's happening along the edge. I'm gonna make that a little bit stronger. And now I have to, by the way, you can use your Kleenex again, just so you guys know, this is from the Sky workshop. So I'm dunking my Kleenex in the my water bowl, and I'm just blotting. See how easily that you can get a sky. I'm going to connect these shapes right here. There you go. Instant sky. I'm going to connect that a little bit more. Kind of cool. I don't want very much happening in that sky. I could put a little, because that glow is down here, I could put a little of that warmth in there. And I'm using such a pale, I'm washing out the edges with my brush. I'm using such a pale color. I'm just made it just slightly warmer so it kind of connects. And I'm not taking a bunch of little strokes. I'm just taking a bigger stroke. And I'm trying to be natural with it, organic, if you will. Okay, that's kind of sort of my sky. I really like this little warm spot right there. Anyway, so that's my start. And you see what I'm doing right here? While that's damp, I'm just washing out that edge. And I'm trying to do it with a clean damp brush, because I want the paper to stay that kind of white color. So now I've solved one issue. There's that the sky isn't getting in the way of what's happening down here. I have to dry this. By the way, as you guys know who've been here before with workshops, when I do demos, I usually overdo them, because one thing will run into another, and I'll want to show you how I did that. So I'm expecting a painting when I get done that's kind of overdone. It's not overworked, but it's overdone. I've used too many kind of gags, or I don't know what you want to call them, techniques. Anyway, I'm going to mix up a color that's going to be this ridge line back here. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to use some blue. I'm going to use maybe a tad of purple. I'm going to use burnt sienna, just because. And I'm kind of mixing a neutral, but I want that neutral to be, to stay cool because of atmospheric perspective. I'm even going to add a little of the, I use raw sienna instead of yellow ochre. I find that it's a little more earth-like, a little more earthy. Anyway, I want to cool this off. I want to still, that's a pretty good neutral right there. I don't have a green. I don't want a green on my palette. I'm going to use a little bit of that raw sienna to warm it up slightly, but it's still going to be a lot cooler, even though we have this warm fog mist than what's up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to make this a line, and you'll notice that I'm just not going on the same width. So I'm going to make this I keep turning the brush, and I'm trying to keep this irregular. I do not want this fog to follow this this line of these hills. So now I've got that done. I'm going to wash my brush out, and I'm going to squeeze it a little bit. And now I'm going to just go back in here and wash out these edges. I can be quite aggressive with this. And you'll see right away it starts to make that natural looking fog, the mist. I'm lifting some of that right through here because I want that to come into this next part. It's peeking around this hill. It's drifting through that crease right there. But you see, I didn't do much. I did it very quickly. I didn't do too much to it, but I think it has the right temperature of color. I think it has the right values. And I'm going to give this a little glow now that I'm looking at it. I'm going to give that a little glow right through there. And I'm going to wash out the edge. When it's a little brighter there. That's kind of where I'm going to want you to look, that one V, and I'm just washing this edge out. I'm going right up into the sky. And I just used gamboge. And it will make it a little more interesting, dull. Give me some place to look. Okay. Gave you some place to look. Now, I think that is actually going to be okay. So that color that I used, I'm going to darken it up, add a little purple, add a little more burnt sienna, make it slightly warmer than what I did back here. Slightly. It's not too much of a color shift or a color change from this other guy. So I'm just going to just gonna go for it. Start adding a little to that ridge line back there. And blend that out as I go along. I want this to stay open down here. I can even add a couple little, something's going on over there. I'm going to take some of my raw sienna and start adding it down here because I do not want that to be white. It's going to be too much. I don't care about any of this down here. I don't care, because that's going to be darker. What I'm trying to do is just build on that fog. I'm scraping my brush along here. And I'm going to, in this case, I am going to, if I could find it. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna mist it. I'm gonna mist it slightly. So that's gonna soften out some of those edges. Kind of cool. And now that's wet, so I can drop in some more interesting color. I'm trying to make this look like it's got some peek through. Peek through. Yeah. You can play with this as much as you want, as long as it stays wet. I'm going to take this right up into the sky. What I'm always doing is I'm just doing the tops of the hills, and then washing out the bottom. And I'm adding a little dark in here. That's just going to automatically wash out because that paper's still wet. It's pretty cool. And I just want to make sure that it's not, it's more irregular than regular. And you'll notice on the value scale, we still haven't used dark yet. Oh, wow. A big blob of water just went through here and it's drifting down here, and it's going to be a interesting granulation. I'm not going to blot it or anything. It's going to go right over there and start seeping down and making more mist. That was kind of lucky. We'll see how that turns out. So I think we are establishing 1, 2, 3. We're establishing a sense of space, distance. And I think I'm going to be safe down here. If I'm not, here's a little secret. Tony Couch. I'm going to blot these edges here. And so while that is still drying wet and wet, I can blot these edges, and that means I can go ahead and keep painting. And I'm going to make this the warmest. I'm going to use more of my burnt sienna and purple. And I'm more interested in the value than anything else. I can just take, I'll just see how that color goes, or that value of that color goes. I think that is about right, judging from the rest of the still using the same brush, just doing that little dance down there for the trees, back and forth.
Can you please repeat how you got the dark, what you mixed to do the dark?
I used burnt sienna and purple with a little bit of paints just to make it darker, but it's definitely warmer. And when I get down into here, I'm going to wash a little bit of that out eventually. But for right now, I just want to get this paint down. So I'm using purple and I'm using burnt sienna, and I'm making this dark, which is a kind of a cool dark. And I want to make sure that this goes off up here and this goes off down there. And I'm just putting in the big shapes. I can certainly go along and add something to those if I want. And here goes my, I think this is dry enough. I'm not quite sure, but I'll find out in a second. So there goes my big tree. And again, I'm just going back and forth and dancing, scribbling, if you will. I can bring a couple of trees up just like this. I'll just pull it up and rough up the edges a little bit. Anything that appears I love the way this happened back here, those little bushy guys. And some of these are, the paper's still wet. Well, it's a really kind of a nice effect. And also I could take my, palette knife and I could scrape out some rocks just for interest. Just a little texture happening. That's actually kind of cool. And I'm going to use some of my raw sienna. And I'm going to just move this up and re-wet that just a little bit. And so that's going to be, that's going to appear to be a little distant going down that little valley from all this dark. And it's also melting some of these other edges. Kind of cool, kind of interesting. Now, if you find yourself having difficulty with anything, remember that you can always go back, let this dry, always go back and re-wet this. I love these washed out edges. That's kind of what makes this whole deal work. I'm going to put in another one up here, but I'm going to make it that raw sienna color so it stays back. And I really, there's my dark, there's my light. This is a little bit, it's a transition coming up here, darker to lighter. I see something that I want to do now that I'm looking at it. I want the curtain, when I say curtain, I want to draw your attention to this area. So I don't want this outside of this stuff fighting it. So I'm going to, while it's still wet, I'm going to just put a little more value. It's not about the color, it's about the value of the color. and just wash out that edge, let the watercolor do its work, and that makes that more focused. And I can also go back while it's still damp, and I can still use this big brush. I'm going to put a few little sky holes in here, if you will, and they'll soften out. I could use a smaller brush. I could use whatever, but this is quite workable at this point. You learn a hell of a lot by doing this, by uh, just doing it, just figuring out the time of what's too wet to do something, what's too dry to do something. But with this, I've got various degrees of wetness and dryness all the way across here. So that's not going to get in the way. I know what I can do, and I'm learning every time I do this. Is that wet enough to lift? Is it too wet to put paint into? And I can also, the way I blotted this sky, I can also blot this fog there. I blotted some of that fog. Kind of cool. Anyway, there's all kinds of stuff. If you do this more than once, you can find out just by doing this whole exercise what works and what doesn't work, and the timing of it. Because as we know, watercolor is all about the timing, and there's no magic to it. Every day is going to be different, but if you paint enough and you just paint, just put pigment on paper, paint an abstract, doesn't make any difference. You're learning. I really taped this one. You're learning how the watercolor reacts, and when is the time to do something, and when is the time to let it dry completely. And then you're able to do something by re-wetting it or by painting wet on dry again. There we go. Kind of, sort of. These are all different. Love this granulation in here. Some of that purple, some of that blue, some of that raw sienna showing through. This is very warm. That cools off. I am going to go get some clean water, if that's okay. I don't think I can do much more with that water. By the way, yes, I know I have a little dinghy there and I have something someplace else. Don't worry about any of that. Anything can be fixed. So the important part is to just get the process. Oh, good, Jerry. You're going to post yours. Yay. Somebody's going to post theirs. By the way, when I send you guys the follow up to this with the recording link and all the other links that I'm going to show you, I will send you pics of the demos, of course, and I'll also post those in the atmosphere folder of what we painted so far today. Does anybody have any questions? Is anybody having fun?
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
By the way, I ran into a new word, and some of you already know this word. When I did my interview with the Xanadu gallery guy, the power of frustration. And of course, I renamed that funstration. That's how you learn stuff. So,
That's a good word.
yeah. Yeah, I should copyright that word, huh? Then I could retire. Ha ha. What would I do if I retired? I'd paint.
Do you ever travel and paint?
I used to. I had a knee replacement, and I also have my cup of sunshine is full. I love going out to the boonies. A lot of rock climbing, hiking, that kind of stuff. But I can't or don't do much of that anymore because I have my penance to pay for too much sunshine and doing too many stupid things when I was a kid, which was 10 years ago.
Hey, Joe, I
Yeah.
just, 3 weeks ago, I just had my hip replaced.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that sounds scary, but I guess it's easier than knees.
yeah, I'm on the mend, but
Good.
it's good. I'm sitting here painting, so I don't have to walk around on it. That's
Good for you. By the way, I might as well tell you this now because we're on the same subject. I do not have a next workshop, first and third scheduled because I'm going to have some surgery. And so I don't know what that date is yet. But as soon as I find out that date and how long I'm going to have to rehab, then I will let you guys know.
Okay, all the best to you.
And
Yes.
thank you. And also, I am open to anyone. I've always said this. I am open to anyone if they suggest something for a workshop. Either they want to work on, they haven't gotten in previous or in other workshops or YouTube or books or any of that stuff. I can't figure this out. It's like this is a pretty basic thing. I'm going to paint wet on dry and I'm going to wash out the edge. Now, how I do that That's me talking. As an individual artist, that's my voice coming out. So,
Joe, I think that this particular workshop is very useful. It's really kind of neat because there's stuff that you do that I didn't know obviously how to do it, but
well, I
Yeah.
think you've all done it before, whether it's by accident or you were just trying something, but it didn't stick, or it didn't, you didn't quite get it. It was one of those not mistakes, but happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents. Anyway, I'm going to switch back to, I'm going to stop the share for a second. Because you should be far enough along with this, you're just kind of finishing it up. Sort of, kind of, sort of. Anyway, I want to do this one next, but not yet. Because I want to show you a couple of things. I think I still have them queued. I'm going to show you a couple of videos, and they're very short, so you can take a little break, let it dry or whatever. It's not going to be that long, but all the time I get asked by people, how do I start? Let alone how do I finish? How do I know when it's done? But usually it's how do I start? And with watercolor, it's usually wet to dry. It's usually light to dark. It's usually top to bottom. All those things are guides. They are not rules. As you can probably tell, I don't like rules. Anyway, this is by Chen Chung Wei, who I like because he does a couple of things that I learned from him. Instead of just pulling the brush or going back and forth with the brush, he actually pushes the brush. And when you push the brush, you're going to get a different texture. You're going to get a much more textured stroke than if you push the brush. So example, if you're making a tree, you could start from the top and pull down, and then you could go from the bottom and push up. And it's going to give you more bark. It's going to give you more texture. It's going to give you more whatever. He does that with buildings a lot, and I think he works on rough paper. What I like is the sparkly stroke, the silk kind of stroke, the what I call a sparkly water or sparkly light kind of stroke. And that's just hitting the tops of the cold press, or in this case, I think it's rough. You're going to emphasize that depending on what texture your paper is. Anyway, I think you'll have fun watching me. So I'm going to show you a few, and I'll send you the links, and then you can watch more because I'm sure that YouTube will take you to more of these. And I'm going to play these full screen. I'm going to get rid of you guys, make you minimize. I'm going to put this away for a second. Well, it won't make any difference. I want to go back to the beginning of this. This is one of his really cool paintings.
Oh, wow, it is cool.
And there's his drawing. So look at the drawing. Look how much he drew.
Wow.
Oh no, Young is not here.
So cool.
I'm not going to show you this one yet because we're not there yet. This is the guy that uses the gouache or a gesso. So it's after the fact. I'm going to try it. It's takes some courage to do this this way because you're painting over the top of a painting that you probably don't like anyway, but you think it could be better, improved. I'm going to see. I'm not going to change. I'll come back as me when we're later on. Anyway, there is an art to doing that, but you can do that. He does that a lot in his paintings because if you remember when we talked about focal point, and one of the ways to do that was focus. So I've got all this, and it's perfect for watercolor because it's a bunch of wet and wet, and then I'm focused on this, and it's not only has the most contrast, it has the hardest edges. So he's kind of a master at taking a painting after the fact and softening it, getting rid of some of it, and he does it with gesso or white paint. At any rate, I'm going to, I really want you guys to do this one that I'm going to do. So I'm going to get rid of this. And this can be done quickly, but this is where you become master of the universe. And so you can make up however you want to do this. So I'm going to get rid of that guy and get a new sheet of paper if you want. I have to take my tape off. Okay, doke. New sheet of paper. Yay. And I'm going to make 2 paintings on this page. I'm going to do one, and you all have these photos. Oh, I like that trip photo I took. And I'm going to do a painting. And you can, that's perfectly fine. But what if you wanted to do something different than that painting? Like add atmosphere. In this case, how would you do that? Well, you've kind of already done it. So this is going to be a big, for your brain, what do I want to say? Learning experience, because it'll stay with you. So it'll come back to you when you're in the middle of painting something. Yep. So I'm going to make this two equals, and I'm going to draw 2 things at the same time. So they are kind of equal. I'm going to use that reference to do it with. And already I see from this reference that that is a low horizon. That's a low horizon. So I'm going to make a low horizon. I'm going to write that right through here, and I'm going to make one right through here. And I think everybody can see that. And then I'm going to say, okay, where does this start? Oh, that starts like halfway. And it goes all the way over, third, it goes all the way over to a third. So third, it goes all the way, and it starts halfway. And so I'm just going to make a thing. I'm going to do the same thing here, halfway, and make a thing. And there's my fabulous drawing so far. I am going to make this guy. I'm going to just do that for now and that for now. I'm going to try to make these both the same. And then I can, I'm going to actually draw my mountains in the background for this one. I'm going to try to draw them pretty much the same way. There we go. I'm going to make that a different angle than that. I'm going to make that a different angle than that. These little things will make a difference. I'm going to take this guy, and I am going to make a straight line. And I'm going to make a straight line. And what I want to do is make sure that that comes down to that point. And I want to make sure I do a jog. So I'm going to erase that line. I'm going to erase that line. I'm going to have this mass of land behind this guy. So I want this jog right here. I don't know if you can see that. I guess you can. So I want that. And then that stays behind it. And that stays behind that jog. So now I'm ready to paint. Wow. That's all I need. I need the foundational stuff. And I'm going to paint the detail, so I don't have to draw the detail. I'm more of a detail painter than I am a drawer. As you can tell in some of those videos I just showed you, that they were pretty well drawn out.
Very well drawn out.
And drawing is, of course, the most important part of being an artist. I don't care what medium you're using. And I'm going to use Mr. Gravity, and I'm going to paint the top. I'm going to paint the top separately from the bottom. I'm not going to try to paint both at the same time because they're both going to be quite different. And I'm going to use the same color palette. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the top. I'm going to paint this straight first. So I'm painting, I'm going around these little mountains back here. And so there's my wet top. And I am going to use some gamboge. And I'm just going to warm this sky up right through there. I'm going to use a little orange with that and warm that sky up. And I'm going to let it paint itself. Yay. So cool the way it paints itself. Now I'm going to use, what's the opposite of, on the color wheel, what's the opposite of yellow? Purple. So now I'm going to mix up some purple and some yellow together, and I'm going to make that color. It's kind of cool. It's a nice transition kind of color. And that's going to run down and do its thing. Now, if I wanted to stop that from running and I wanted to run it off this way, I certainly could. So, but for this purpose, now I'm going to use more purple. And I'm going to paint that part, the top. And I want this to be, I want my light to come from this side over here. And so I'm painting the left side darker. And I can certainly cut that purple with some of that yellow. And I get a much more neutral kind of color going on through there.
And what purple is that?
I'm using Imperial Purple. In fact, I'm going to add a little more orange just so you guys can see this. There's a little more orange. So there's my sky, and I'm going to turn it that way. So it runs off to this side. Instead of running down, I'm going to kind of stop it. And by the way, I can use my thirsty brush and I can go back into it just like that. And I see maybe just like that. And so I'm touching this very little. This whole sky is painting itself. That's kind of the secret to it. I see I need a little dark up in this corner, so I'm just going to go do that. So there's my sky. And whatever happens, happens. But it's going to be wet and wet. It's going to have that wet look to it. Now, if you want this to stop moving, if it gets to a point where you just say, okay, I don't want it to drift anymore, you can just lay it flat. But in this case, the paper is starting to wobble a little bit. So I just want to let this dry, or I could go over to the hair dryer and I could set it, if you will. But I have to do this first. This is nice. This is wet and wet. I'm going to do the same thing down here, but not yet. And don't be shy with putting the paint on. You can see that I'm not shy about using paint. But it's all going to dry back lighter anyway. I'll dry this a little bit so I can turn it back over so you guys can see. There we go. There's my sky. Ooh, I made it stormier, didn't I? It's watercolor. I'm sorry, but I like mine better.
So cute.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, not. Anyway, so that's going to give me a nice bounce between that and the graphicness of the rest of it. And as I say, this is just kind of a procedure. I want to make sure we have enough time to get in. So I'm going to mix up a blue. I'm going to mix up cobalt and cerulean. And from experience, previous experience, I think cobalt's probably a better color. And I'm going to try to neutralize it just a tad, but I want it to be that cobalt color. I neutralized it a little bit too much. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go over this. I'm going to paint my blue, and I don't care about coming down into here. So I'm just worried, concerned about painting this top part. I'm not concerned about this either. I just want to make that a pretty blue. There we go. Boy, look how that made that sky light up, huh? Wow. Now I have to let this dry. I'm painting this in layers. I'm painting graphically. But I am going to start mixing up my next color, which is going to be that guy. And I want it a little bit darker and a little bit warmer. Almost kind of a neutral kind of a warm gray. I'm going to put a little purple in it. Boy, purple is such a great swing color. It'll go warmer, cool bias. Anyway, I know I'm going to get a little edge, but it's about the value of the color, not the color. So I'm just going to go up here and just off. So I know that looks dark, but it's not going to be that dark when it dries. I want to make sure I just have a nice little edge here. I don't care about this part right here. So there we go. Now I have a distant cool. Now I can let that dry. So that's a little bit in front of this guy. This guy's going to dry about that light, not that dark. And this guy, I can always go back and fudge the top of that a little bit if I want to make it even darker. And I think I'm going to just, because I want to make sure you guys get all this stuff, I'm going to use some of the burnt sienna and Payne's together. So I can just warm this up a tad. And I want to make it, I want it to be dark, of course. Yep, that's going to work. There we go. And tickle that edge with a few little of these strokes just to make trees. Kind of cool. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on that. Hey, we're looking pretty good, I think. So I'm going to use some of the yellow color as I wash my brush out. Wasn't very clean. I'm going to use that gamboge, a little bit of it. I'm just going to go bloop. There we go. I like that little white left there. That little, because as you turn the corner, you can go behind this and in front of that. And then some orange going all the way through. Picking up the sky, depending on what kind of sky you had. All I'm doing is reflecting it. And now I'm going to use some of this blue, my cool color. And let some of this orange show through. I'm trying to do this in not many strokes. I don't like to take a lot of strokes. It takes away the freshness. That's the reason I like bigger brushes. And that's the reason I like smaller paper for those bigger brushes. So I am going to have to let this part dry because I want to put in some defined edges down here for this water. Are you guys kind of with me? I'm going to take a little bit of this this darker color that I mixed up for here, and I'm going to put that in, and hopefully one stroke right here. Add a few trees. That's going to fade out down into here, which I like. There's a little contrast down here, so that's going to work in our favor. And that beautiful granulation that's happening between that blue and the orange. It's really, that's why I like watercolor. Makes me a better painter. It's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to take my same brush. I'm going to make up these little ultramarine kind of sort of little purple with it. And I want it to be kind of dry paint because I'm just going to, first of all, I'm just going to do this. And then I can just use the tip of my brush. I don't need my dagger. I don't need my, and I'm just going to go back and forth and scribble a little bit. It's kind of cool. I'm going to let that go, blob that a little bit. So that made a big difference to me. It did. I'm going to take this because I covered it up a little bit. I'm going to just use my palette knife. I probably did enough. And I kind of sort of have my comp, my study, my whatever you want to call it, of the how I would paint this photograph just straight. I'm just copying the photo. I'm being inspired, and it's not going to look exactly like, but I'm copying what I see. So I copied what I saw. So that's kind of sort of, I think it's kind of sort of like that. I changed it a little bit just by painting it, but kind of has the feel, flavor. I'm going to paint the same thing. I'm going to paint the same doggone thing, only I am going to be master of the universe. I'm going to use the same paint, same process, only I'm going to make my values closer together, and I'm going to reduce the saturation in my color. So I just wet the top of that. So I'm going to take some of that orange, that gamboge that I had before, and I'm just going to go through like that. I am going to, I want to do a little hot spot right through here. There's going to be my light. Now I can mix some of that purple that I had. Look at that beautiful neutral. Kind of cool. I'm going to take some of that purple and mix some of that. I'm going to mix some raw sienna, excuse me, with that and just go through there. Oh, look at that beautiful color. Wow. Pretty cool. And I think I'm going to let this be, again, darker on this side, lighter on this side. I'm going to turn this over and let it go kind of off the other side. I just want this darker up in here. So I'm going to mix some purple and raw sienna and just make it a little darker. Hopefully. So anyway, there's my sky. That's a pretty cool palette, I think. Wow. I keep blotting my brush because I want more paint and less water. And I'm using an awfully big, using an inch brush for that. But I was going to just put a few of those through there. There, that's probably enough. I'm going to turn it that way and let it dry. And then I'm going to do what we just got done doing for this next set of hills. That is a cool palette. Wow, that's pretty cool. Cool palette. Okay, so I'm going to use blue again, but I'm really going to dull it down with, I'm going to just add it to that mix I just had with the purple and the raw umber. And I want it to stay on the cool side, so I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to go right along the top. And I don't want to just make the single brush line along the top. I want to vary that. And again, I'm not afraid to go down into this bottom part. I'm going to wash my brush out. And I'm going to blot it off, put my fingers on it, ring it. And now I can go back and I can start adding this texture, this fog, this soft mist. I'm going to leave a lot of this quite light over in that area and let the rest of this kind of bleed off. But you'll notice I want an irregular edge. So that already looks kind of sort of misty to me. In fact, I think I'm going to just change up a little bit right here is I'm going to add that. So this hill is going to stay in front of this guy back here, but I'm going to give it a place that it can escape around that corner. It's kind of cool. I'm going to emphasize that just a little bit more. There we go. And I'm going to use the same combination, the purple with the, I'm going to use some more raw sienna. Excuse me, burnt umber. I'm just going to take a stab at this to see what might happen. I think that's going to be a fairly decent value for that color. And I'm not going to worry about that edge yet. I just want to make sure that it's darker than what's behind, and I see a little mist happening. I'm painting this exactly the same way I painted that guy. So now I'm even going to get darker. Have to go to panes and a little bit of that purple, a little bit of that same mix. That darker color, is that dark? Yes, that's good dark. Wow, that's pretty good dark. I'm not worried about this bottom part yet. I just want to get this shape in here. There we go. Add a few trees. It's the advantage of using this flat brush. No problem. How many trees do you want? Anyway, so I think I have a nice sense of depth going on through here. And in fact, I think I'm going to lift just slightly this one little part right here. So now I have it escaping. I have the atmosphere just funneling in from down there. And again, I have to be aware of what am I reflecting. So I'm going to just do that because that's going to be there. And I really don't have a lot of orange in there. It's mostly going to be that gray kind of purpley color. And I am going to just take a damp brush where these guys, I'm going to make this a little darker down here first. Now that I'm looking at it, so here's another dark. Maybe I'll make this one a little softer because it's a little more in the fog. Maybe. I'll have to see. Anyway, what I want to do in both of these places right here, I'm going to just take my damp brush, I squeeze some out, and I'm going to just go right along there, just as a little lift. 1, 2, 3, that's enough. And this one, I'm going to do the same thing. This is wet. This is still wet. It's drying. I'm going to just go right along through here, pick up that paint right along. Until I get that nice, smooth um, effect of that fog. And I like the little fog place right in there. I want to dry this real quick and finish it. Okay, I'm going to take some of that dark, and I'm just going to go again right through here while it's fairly dry. And that's probably enough. We're going to say it's enough. So now I can see what I have, and I can, that's just the same reference, the same inspiration, except it's a totally different painting. You are master of the universe. There we go. We have two. You can also do the same thing with this attitude by, okay, I want to make it 2 different seasons or 3 different seasons or whatever happens to be. Anyway, I think it's the same way we did the other ones. It's a kind of a different look, but hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully, if you guys want to save this, you can, I'll leave it up for a few more minutes, and then I want to show you the gesso, or attempt to show you the gesso and the gouache overpainting. Interesting. Again, I'm squeezing in. I'm going to attempt the fog on this guy. You notice I'm giving myself some wiggle room. I'm going to attempt. Oh, I got to get some clean water while you're finishing up. Okey doke. Done. Yay. Hey, we're getting a collection. Wow. So I have this painting, and it's one of several demos that I did on this particular subject matter. And I'm going to tape it off just because I can see it a little bit better, because this will probably be a mess by the time I get done with it, but we'll see. Okay, I do not need that. I do not need that. I do need this. And I am going to squeeze out a little gesso on this. There we go. I'm also going to use this, my white paint. So let's see what will happen. I know you guys are painting, but if you can look up for just a second, I'm going to share my screen with a short video. It's 3 minutes. And it's John Lovett, and it's how he does some of it. It's a cell video, but in particular, toward the end, there's two ways that he uses the gesso. He does it all the time.
Hi there. I'd just like to tell you a bit about the new instant video projects available on my new website, John Lovett Watercolour Workshop.
He's a good guy.
Each project takes you step by step to a finished painting. There's a high definition video.
See the right side of that
printout,
painting?
and complete online instructions. You only need a few painting materials, and each project starts by guiding you through arranging the composition with a quick thumbnail sketch. Mixing colours is made easy, as the colours for each new mixture are shown and explained. Close-up details of all the important steps and techniques are shown, and all colours are labelled. You will learn lots of interesting techniques to add impact to your paintings. From small details to big overglazes with gesso and gouache.
That
These
right
are
there.
techniques that you will carry over into all your paintings.
And then he brushes it out with a hake.
River Landscape shows you how to build up a painting with simple layered washes. It shows you how to control edges to give your painting depth and tie everything together. We will look at the importance of carefully placed punctuation marks, add detail with tinted white gouache, and put life into the painting with cool blue overglazes. Calm Water shows you how to start with layered transparent washes to build up a luminous background, and then how to add loose suggestive detail with a rough old bristle brush.
So he's going
This
to,
detail is then contrasted with tight geometric marks made with smaller brushes. You will learn the
he's going to give you a, see that right-hand corner? He's going to make the boathouse, which it should be, more of the focal point. So this is after you've done a painting. And it's just transparent watercolor. And you want to make it better. Or so you think. That's my, yeah, that's what always happens to me. There we go. Look at that white gouache and look at how he uh, is is making that whole right side of that painting less attractive for your eye to look at. So anyway, I thought that was worth it. I'll include that in the I will include that in the brief or the email that I send. So let's try that. I'm still not quite sure. I'm still learning kind of how to do this, but I want to try it. So I've got some gouache. I've got some gesso on this paper, and I'm going to just use this brush, and I'm just going to use a wash of it. And say I wanted to put fog over here. Push that back a little bit. And I can't do it over too many times, which I just did, but I'm going to take my hake and I'm going to try to blend that out.
And that's a
So
dry
that
brush.
looks foggier. And I'm going to go back now that I see that, and I am going to go through here, and I'm going to see if I can't make that foggier, a little bit more atmospheric, if you will. I think I'm going to go up in here too, and I'm going to spray it. Let's try that. I'm going to spray that with my spray bottle, and that's going to let me wash it out. So now I'm covering up some of that. That seems to work pretty good. So I'm covering up some of those rocks in the distance. Also, I'll show you a little thing is that I have this gesso here, but I'm going to add a little blue to it. I'm going to make it blue. Okay, and then I'm going to I think I'm going to spray that again too, right through there. I want to make it so it's looks like it's a little foggier from the top. Uh-oh, what did I do with my, oh, there it is. So I can use color on it. And now I'm just going to try this white paint, my usual white paint, and see what happens. This gouache or this gesso is going to dry, and it's not going to be, it's not going to come off. It's going to dry permanently. So now I'm going to try this, and this will come off. This is my just my white gouache. I'm going to spray that a little bit. See what happens with this. That's getting foggier and foggier. In fact, I think I'll just, how would it be if I just made a little bit of this go right through there? I have to be careful because I'm melting this paint. I need this to be dry. I goofed up. I dipped it in my water bucket, but I think it'll be okay. It'll be okay once it's dry. So it has a completely different look. And I could put a fisherman out here, and I could also dull this down. I think I will. I could put a fisherman out here on a rock in you know, a certain value that would be certainly not dark, but it would certainly be that foggy morning or evening. I'm going to dry this off because it's going to dry. I'm a little more transparent, a little lighter, so you can actually see what you can get. And I think this is easier to do this way if it's a bigger sheet of paper. Actually, I don't think that's too bad for what I was trying to accomplish. So anyway, I'll include that if you guys want to experiment, if you want to try it on one of your paintings. Maybe you think you can make it better by adding the atmosphere. Okie doke. Interesting. Interesting. Yes, it's interesting. Okie doke. Let me stop the share. Now let me. Do this. Okay. Those of you who are still with us, yay! Let me turn my camera back on. See if it'll work. Okay, come on. There we go. Hey, yay. Okay, and I don't think anybody had any comments. I don't think the chat was, maybe the chat was, nope, no chat. Okay. So who has questions? Who wants to do a hold up, or who wants to go to cluster? Should I go? You can all unmute yourselves, please. I hope I'm not, yeah, just unmute yourselves so we can talk. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Or do you kind of sort of get it? And you can email me later with questions tomorrow or a week from now or whatever, or put it in, if you put it in cluster and you have a question or what something that you learned or something that you want to share or whatever, just put it in cluster in a comment. Is the easiest way for all of us to see, because we just all got done doing the same thing. And I hope this helps you make some of your what do I want to say, your visions for your paintings. It gives you another way to go that I think, especially if you start from the beginning. But I really think that was clumsily done, but I think that's fairly effective. The Oregon coastline there, and it could be finished off. So does anybody have a hold up? I'll hold them up. They want to show, has a question about. Okay, I'm going to go to Cheryl first. Okay, Cheryl. Oh, wow. Very cool. Oh, I love the rocks. Love all the stuff. That's finished painting. Cool.
Thank you.
Love it.
So you got, I think you understand how to get that effect.
It was really
So
fun.
it's just paint the, we can't hear you.
Oh, it was fun.
Still can't hear you.
I hear you.
I can hear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to do sign language. That's okay. Okay, very good. Very cool. So, and put your stuff in cluster so we can all share if you want. Who else had a hold up? Grace?
No.
Jerry? Yeah, hang on. Replace spotlight. Okay. Oh, look, everybody got it so far. There you go. That's got quite a mood to it as opposed to just painting those flat hills, huh? I can't hear you either. You're muted. Everybody can unmute themselves if you want. Okay.
This is not on good paper, so I'm gonna try it on really good paper. This is a fluid paper, which is not very good.
Right. But that's okay. You got it.
Yes.
But you understand it. Yeah, I chose the Fabriano over the Strathmore for that very reason, because it's less sizing. It's less glue in the paper, and it will receive the pigment a little better, softer. If you like graphic, then the Strathmore is much better, but it depends on what you're painting. But most of the stuff today, this is very cool. So you got the lost, found, the mist, the connecting. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I especially like that lower right-hand corner. Very cool. Okay, who else? Yeah, the way that purple snuck in there. Anybody
Yes.
else? Oh, by the way, I apologize, Cheryl. It was me.
Oh, okay. No problem.
I had my, when I was playing that video, it was too loud. Okay, Diane. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
I like limited palette.
Very nice.
Yeah, so a limited palette besides one color would be what? Two colors, a warm and a cool. So just pick a warm and a cool. And you can just follow the guide that says warm comes forward, cool recedes. So my two choices are ultramarine and burnt sienna. For transparent watercolor. For ink, it's indigo and burnt umber. So that's very good, Diane. Nice drawing, nice perspective, nice proportion, nice design, nice textures. And even though it's a one color palette, it has that atmosphere to it. That's very good. Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, who else?
I'll go.
Okay, Miriam.
Okay. This is Bahong paper or something like that. It feels like sandpaper kind of.
Huh.
BOH, let's see. BAOHONG.
Just finishing up a workshop, please browse.
That's really hard paper to find. It's from China.
Oh, I see. Well, it seems to take the paint fairly well.
It's strange. It doesn't lift very well. I got it on Amazon, but they don't always have it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
As I said, Fabriano's got a big sale on writing.
Where did you
But
get
where?
that? I don't know.
I got mine at Graph Age, but that's local. But I think everybody, I think all the retailers, ASW, Dick Blick, Cheap Joe's, I think they're all having kind of Fabriano month.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Great.
once you get used to it, I think it's good paper. So it's like all papers. You got to just try them out. And then your style will gravitate towards a certain kind of paper, either one that accepts watercolor or one that doesn't quite accept it as well. Here's a little clue for you. The more sizing or glue in the paper, the less room that the pigment has to soak into the paper. So it's going to soak in deeper. There's a pros and cons. Number one, you can work wet and wet longer. Like Saunders is like 45 minutes before it dries out. Arches maybe 30 minutes. Fabriano maybe 15 or 20. And then it starts to dry out. But as far as the pigments is concerned, depending on what kind of paper you're painting on, if it's a soft paper and the pigment soaks in, your painting is going to be less colorful than a painting that is done on a harder, heavily sized paper. So when I paint on Strathmore, which is heavily sized, it's very crisp. It's actually easy to lift because the pigment's more toward the surface. It's got so much sizing in it that it won't allow the pigment to go down into the fibers of the paper. Therefore, the color is more brilliant or saturated because you're looking at it on a higher surface on the fibers. So it's those little things like that. So you can explain it all, but just find something you like and stay with it. I mean, and then you can go into, if you like a certain brand, then you can go into hot press, cold press, rough, all those other things. So, anybody else?
Oh, Shell.
Okay, hang on. Oh, great. Well, you guys have all got this.
Go ahead.
Wow.
I must have said something right. I
Beautiful.
lucked out.
Your classes are great, Joe.
Well, thank you. Well, you got that one down to it, and it's important that you let it dry between layers. I know in a workshop we're rushing through, but I wanted to, that's the reason I used the hair dryer and sped up. So yeah, let me see that one too. Oh, there you go. See, you've got a certain amount of atmosphere in that too. Could be a little softer on your edges and a little more pinched down on your values. Anyway, make your darker a little lighter and make your lighter a little darker.
Oh,
Very nice.
all right. That sounds good. Okay, this one was, all right. That's it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Who else? Somebody else was doing something.
I'll do it. Judy.
Oh, okay. Cool. Let me hit replace. Oh, see, there you go. Look, you learned a lot by just doing 2 on a sheet. Very cool. Yes.
I'll,
Again, I'll say the same thing. When you put down that first wash that is getting rid of your white and your number 1 and maybe 2 value, don't be afraid to go a little darker. And
okay.
make your darks a little lighter. Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So right here where your yellow V in that background is, wash that, lift that out a little bit. So you let that flow into the,
Yeah. Oh, okay. And down here.
yeah, right there. Just lift it out a little bit. So there's no connection to that
Yeah.
hill on the right.
Yeah. This was challenging, but it was fun.
Did you think you got it? I mean, it just might take some practice to get, if that's what you want to do, it might just take some practice to, I mean, it's the first time, or I don't know how long you've been painting.
Oh,
But,
how cute.
My grandson.
Hi.
oh, I see a painting coming right there.
I take my older one to another painting class. I do oil sometimes, and she gets to come with me, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh, how fun. Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, hang on. Sandy, I knew you'd be up.
Megan,
Oh, look at that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love the way the sky connects to the everything else. You did the sky the same way you did the mist, the fog. And so it is a definite connection between those graphic shapes. That's cool too.
Love that.
So yes, especially this part right here where you've got that outbuilding, the distant one. This part right in here really is atmospheric. So if you guys want to try that gouache or gesso, you've got plenty of stuff, and I'm sure you've got like me, I'm sure you've got a pile of stuff.
Yes.
A pile of stuff. Bob Burridge calls them turkeys. So anyway. So does anybody have any other questions? Anything? Any comments?
Great job. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, just take some of your photos and try it. Grace, I know you have 1 million photos from your trips. So just take one of those, or take one of your paintings that you've already done and try to add fog. Get out the fog
Yes.
machine.
Like a fog machine.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, guys, I'll keep you up to speed on my my schedule.
All right.
Whatever the hell that's going to be.
Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
You're
That's a
welcome.
good
Thank
work
you.
job.
Great class.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Lots of fun.